blue sky. Isn't this what we kind of see in each other's lives through social media? And then we get to know what's really going on in people's lives, right? So, this is the first video in my series or in my new channel for Mr. Alpin, which is, well, a much longer story, but suffice to say is the character that resembles me in my book. And I want to bring you along on this adventure, and it's complicated and sometimes very sad, but hopefully will be filled with hope. We'll see. So what is behind me is the site where a beautiful log cabin used to exist. So let me go back to the beginning briefly. So about a year and a half ago or so, I came to this beautiful place in the Sequoia National Monument and found an unfinished log cabin here, 3 stories tall, but not finished, smelled horribly, and came in here and could see the potential that was here, even though it wasn't finished. And put in new kitchen, new bathroom, drywall, insulation, plumbing, wiring, flooring, paint, and then we opened as a B&B, Alpenhof. And it was a beautiful place, and so many happy guests came here, enjoyed the time on the deck, listening to these birds in the background, and it was a glorious time. And then found there was a little shed down here on the lower property. Oh, just a rodent infested place. And it had little metal roof and no insulation, and no siding on the side of it. Just some logs on one side, but tar paper on the other 3 sides. And I thought, wouldn't it be amazing to be able to make a place that people could stay there too? So put solar system in off the grid, connected it to water, and put an outdoor shower, finished it interior, kitchen, bed, LED lighting. It was amazing. And we opened it in early September. We were booked solid. This was through the pandemic, right? People were just trying to find a place to get away and be out of the city and away from other people, and they could come out here into the forest and go for beautiful walks in the forest and to creeks and waterfalls. And on September 13th, the Sequoia Complex fire came through and burned all of this to the ground. It's been a tough year. And as you look around, some of the interesting things to note is there's a cabin back there in the background. There's another one over here. Out of the 50 some odd cabins that are in this neighborhood, only about a dozen survive. And you think, the fairness of it. Is it fair that this should burn and the others would not? And then I think to myself, well, if it didn't burn, would anybody still want to come stay here? So, where's all this heading? I don't know. And, so in life, we often see everybody's A game on social media, right? We see the best of what's going on in their life, and we know the backstory going on in our own, and we think, oh, how do we just not measure up to what we see around us? Well, this video is to pull back the curtain a little bit, I guess, on this story and to see where it's going. I actually don't know yet. And this bothers me because as an engineer, I really like to plan things out and know where they're going before I set forward. Well, I'm not too sure yet, but I have a plan. So, from seeing the success of what we had here and thinking, and people loved the little artist cabin that we had, maybe we should build a bunch of little cabins. But where, right? Who wants to come visit here? So there's another community a little bit up the road up here that did not burn, and just purchased a small lot of land up there. And I have a concept to take ISO shipping containers and turn them into cabins. Now, I'm sure you've seen this before in tiny homes, and it looks great, again, on the internet where people have done this on their property, and it's great. But I think you're also not seeing the whole picture sometimes. That people will buy these things, and without permits and without inspections, and without red tape, they go on and build this and rent it out, and it's great. But when you're trying to do this in a county with regulations and do it legitimately, it takes a lot more work. And so I'm going to bring you along on a bit of that story. So I'm an engineering teacher at a high school, so I have turned this ISO shipping container project into one of our class projects. So in addition to building an electric car and designing a water system for a village in Honduras, part of my mechanical engineering class has been designing and building this ISO shipping container cabin. And it's a proof of concept for a few things. One is fire recovery, because my school is down in Southern California, just near Malibu, and there's been a lot of fires. And so sometimes people need a place to live while they rebuild, or in some cases, they don't have enough insurance and they aren't able to rebuild at all, or with any of the money that would be needed for that. And so I want to build something that's a proof of concept for that. Also, to bring back the Alpenhof, or a place to come stay. So many of our visitors told us how much they enjoyed being here outside of the hustle and bustle of the national park, and especially out of the city, to come enjoy the nature that's here. And believe it or not, just outside of the perimeter of this fire are still waterfalls and beautiful forests and wildflowers and deer and bear that I've just seen in the last couple days. And so people love to come out here and enjoy. So I want to rebuild. And using this concept of the containers, maybe we're able to prove a way of building that could be used for low-income housing. Maybe here in the farming communities around Porterville or in downtown Los Angeles, if we could build something that has low cost and is secure and fireproof, wouldn't that be a great model? But instead of building metal can boxes and proposing it as a homeless shelter, I think I should start here. Design and build it as something beautiful that people want to stay in, and then show that as a possibility. So that's the plan and that's the goal. So I'm sitting here at the end of May. It's been a few months since the fire in September. I guess long enough for me to work my way through depression and angst and not knowing what I could do. And I think ready to share this with you and bring you along on the journey. I myself have received hope from watching other YouTube channels where people have built tiny homes in remote locations, homesteads here and there, or over in Cerro Gordo on the other side of the Sierras, actually directly on the other side, because believe it or not, this is Highway 190, and the other extent of Highway 190 goes over the mountains and goes from Olancha into Death Valley. And not far from there is a mine, one of the largest mining communities in history in California, is Cerro Gordo. And watching their story of rebuilding and hope, and then having their grand hotel burned down a few months ago. And I went and visited, and to see how they were rebuilding, it gave me a sense of hope. And so if you are in a fire recovery zone or mode or period of your life, maybe you're able to see this and see where and how I am putting this back on the tracks. I hope it does. I guess by the time I post this, I won't know. But isn't that like life? We really don't know where tomorrow's going to go. We look around and maybe we're able to plan and hope, and we have the illusion of a great plan. I also look around here and I remember some of these very trees. I put Christmas lights on this little tree over here, and they would sparkle in the evening after sunset. And there was another tree, so that's a giant sequoia over there that's dead. And then these oak trees back here and these beautiful trees. I couldn't actually even see the forest back here because the trees in the foreground. And then there's one little tree. It might look like a dead bush back here behind me. This poor thing is a little oak tree. It got hit by a falling tree branch from up above, and it clobbered it, almost killing it. So I trimmed it back, and it was coming up nicely. So I kept it. It looked like it had potential, maybe. It was deformed, but isn't that kind of like us? a little deformed, and maybe someone sees potential in us. Now it's one of the only living things on the property. Reminds me of some of my students in some ways. I see potential and hope in them that they don't even see in themselves. And I don't know if oak trees see or hope, but if that one had a personality, I'm sure it would have been pretty dismayed in its current situation then. It was all broken and covered up in other tree branches. I saw some hope and potential in it, trimmed it, and now it's the only living thing. There are students in my class that come into my class, sometimes against their will. They're put into my class because nothing else fit in their schedule. And they come out and thinking to themselves that engineering is their favorite thing, and they found a way to connect, and they found a way to use their skills and abilities, and they're so excited about their future. And at the beginning of the year, they had no idea. I have one girl in my class came in and she saw that her superpower is being a great volleyball player. And she did not see herself as an engineer at all. And yet, time after time, she is the one with the most insightful answers that had an intuition about them. And I'm like, I kept speaking into her. You really seem like an engineer. And at the end of that semester, she re-enrolled in my mechanical engineering class for this last year. One of my top students. And when she was leaving the class at the end of the semester, she said, "You know, Mr. Gillsmith, I see myself as an engineer who plays volleyball now." I just wonder what would have happened if I didn't see those things and speak those things of encouragement to her. So, isn't it much more difficult to speak those words of encouragement to ourselves and to those immediately around us? I don't know why. Shouldn't I be able to see the potential in my own life? But I think when you're in the depths of despair and carnage like this forest, it's so much harder to see it in one's own life. And you can look into somebody else's and you think, look at all this potential you have. Well, maybe that's why it's important to have community, and probably why this has been such a difficult year in the time of pandemic, that we didn't have that community to hear it from others. We couldn't see it in ourselves, and then in lack of community with others, we couldn't hear it from others. So I encourage you to find those channels, whether it be a YouTube channel or a church or a podcast or something, that you receive some positive encouragement, hopefully in a personal way that relates to you. Yeah, sometimes I just don't know. And I bet you don't either. So let's take this journey together. I don't know if I'll ever rebuild here. It really, it's pretty devastating. I still hear the chickadees and the stellar jays. They're returning. They must wonder what the heck has happened to their forest. The berries that once were here are gone. The places to build nests. I guess they don't know any better. They just know they must continue on. So maybe we have a lesson that we can learn from them. We must continue on, despite whatever the situation is. Find hope. Find others that encourage us. Ask for help when we need it. Oh, that's a tough one for me. All right. Well, the next videos hopefully will be showing you some of the progress that we're making on the container. Hopefully progress with Tulare County and their building and safety department to think about new things. Oh my gosh. Oh, that is another whole topic that we could go into. I think the building and safety department here is afraid of new ways of doing things. My God, look around me. We can't do things the same way that we've been doing them. It's not here. Our businesses are gone. Our roads are gone. Our community is gone. And yet sometimes the county wants to do things the same way they've always been doing them. Seriously? There is nothing here that's the same as it used to be. We have to do new things. We have to have new solutions. So, in the spirit of new solutions and not being afraid to move forward, here we go.